Today I'll be discussing Rogers' adoption curve. And in order to start this from a level perspective, I have to begin with knowing where I am in the curve and why I fit in that category. The category that I fit in best is innovator. The reason I say that is I work with technology, sometimes new edge technology, almost every day. I was not born into technology, but after 35 years in a technology career, it's become part of my life. I got my first computer in 1984 when I was 15 years old. That was an old Commodore VIC-20 that my brother gave me. If you compare that technology to technology of today, it's very similar to comparing a basic calculator with an iPad. So in that I do work with new technology every day. I have manufacturers that I support their products. I get to see their software and equipment changes before they get fielded out to their customers. They rely on my feedback to make sure that their products are what the customer wants. When I look at the people that I know and where they fit in Rogers' curve, the first one I have to look at is my oldest son, Ryan. He is definitely an innovator. He's of the millennial generation, so he was born into technology. It surrounds everything he does. He's always got to have the newest tech. His degree is a little weird. His degree was in economics and computer science. How's he use that degree? He uses that degree to analyze economic trends in the industry, and he writes software to benefit the company that he works for. The next one I look at is my oldest brother, Larry. He fits in the early adopter category at this point in his career. He used to be an innovator. When he first started, he was a software developer, so he was on the very front edge of the technology he was creating. Now that he's advanced into a management role, he falls more into the early adopter stage because he doesn't actually develop anything new anymore. The technology that he uses is what's already available. So he's not really in the innovator stage anymore. But he is definitely an early adopter because he gets to see it before it becomes popular. My wife Heather, she's definitely an early majority. She doesn't always have the latest tech, but what she does have is newer. She has very strong use of social media and other technologies, new media technologies. She always uses newer devices. She can speak on most terms in a technical atmosphere. My coworker Tim, on the other hand, he is definitely a late majority type. He likes technology, but he's really slow to learn and adopt it and accept those new technologies. The last one, of course, is my stepbrother George. George is by all means a laggard. He hates technology and he only uses it out of necessity. As far as how we can communicate with each other in regards to technology, Ryan, Larry, and myself, we use technology every day, and we can speak tech and non-tech across the curve, depending on who we're talking to. We know that we need to dumb it down, to coin a phrase, when we're talking to people that are not tech-friendly. The laggards, the late majority, we know that we need to speak it down and not be so technical when we talk to them to kind of help persuade them to move up in the chain or into the curve if possible. There are some people that just are not going to move into the curve. Heather and Tim, they can adapt and they can speak to the newer tech, especially once it becomes popular and is being more useful. However, they're not proficient enough to try and persuade anybody to move up or down the curve. George, on the other hand, he is definitely old generation. He does not trust technology. He has a fear of change. And one of the things that holds him back is he lives in a small town. He's been there his whole life. And that town, it's the same one I grew up in. It's very old. They've always lagged behind in technology. They're not in a hurry to catch up. He just got his first cell phone just 2 years ago and insisted it had to be a flip phone because he didn't trust the technology on a smartphone. He does have a computer, but he only uses that computer for Facebook, where he talks back and forth with a few, and I say very few, friends. In 1971, Roberts made a statement, and this statement fits George to a T. What Roberts said was, laggards are likely to be suspicious not only of innovations, but of innovators and change agents as well. And that is definitely where George falls in this category. Because of what I know of each of them and how I place them in their categories, I looked at their careers. What do they do for a living? How involved in tech are they in what they do every day? Where are their social groups? What kind of people do they surround themselves with? And obviously the culture that they come from and what the culture is around them. I also analyzed across large city versus small town. And then the last piece I used to judge where they fit in each category was their comfort versus fear. If I could change something about myself, as far as my category, I would probably move more to the early majority stage. What that brings to me is a little less frustration, because I'm using products that have been around for a day or two, so they've gotten some of the bugs knocked out of them. I can also give myself more time to enjoy life outside of technology. I wouldn't be so technologically strapped. But I would still have the tools that I need to stay current with the industry and be able to do my job and support my customers the way I do. Everyone's going to respond to technology differently. That is just human nature, and it's part of the free will that God gave us. Just the same as each individual has their own process for deciding which technology to use, as well as when and where they will use it. For Ryan, Larry, and myself, as innovators and early adopters, we have to be careful not to overhype our technology, and obviously pointing out the key benefits when appropriate, and being able to and willing to answer the questions to help persuade others to move up and down the curve, preferably up, closer towards the innovators, early adopters. For people like Heather and Tim, they can speak to the basic people, but they're probably not going to change a whole lot of how anybody moves up and down the curve. And George, on the other hand, he is definitely going to turn everybody towards a laggard if he can. It's not until each person is comfortable with the technology that they're able to use before they can begin to be a change agent. For example, I look at Tim. Tim, it takes him a long time just to learn the technology and to get comfortable with it. So for him, he's going to stay in that late majority phase because his comprehension level won't let him move up. For George, he's set in his ways. He's not going to change. He's old. He doesn't care anymore. So my look in conclusion is we all approach technology differently, and how we use it is in our own ways. Some of us embrace technologies. Others of us tolerate it. And some resist it as much as possible. Regardless of which category we fall into, our choice to use or not use technology comes down to the decision process that we each use. This process is how we weigh the risks to the rewards to reach a determination on how we will proceed. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 11 says, "Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you." That explains the spectrum of differences in Rogers' adoption curve as a natural function of life, not just in technology. These same theories can also be applied to how everyday people live their lives and how they apply their ethical principles to their daily life choices. So in Rogers' curve, we're all going to fit in our own place for our own reasons, and we can use our decision trees and our knowledge and our comfort levels to help overcome the fears and maybe move up and down in the curve.